Exit your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Exit your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Exit your 9 to 5. Get gone, get going, got goals, gotta save. Bye bye, bye bye. Exit your 9 to 5. Exit your 9 to 5. Exit your 9 to 5. Get gone, get going, got goals, gotta save. Bye bye, bye bye. Exit your 9 to 5.
I got a dream, got the passion, made a plan to get the means.
I wish I can say starting my business was easy for me in that I knew all along that I would be an entrepreneur. That was not my journey. In fact, I was very unhappy at the time that I started my business, but I had great friends around me and they were encouraging me to just take some time out and get quiet and focus on how I saw myself, what I wanted my future to look like, and what the path to get there would be like for me. And so I took some time and I got quiet, I meditated, and I couldn't believe it. I actually started to see myself. I could visualize everything, and it became exciting for me. So I instantly went to Walmart. I grabbed a poster board, some markers. I had a bunch of magazines. I even went to a few stores just asking if they had magazines they were going to throw out, and they did. So I took those images and I wrote some words and I created a friggin' vision board. And I have to say, the whole experience was really new. It was stepping out of my comfort zone, but that time that I took to get quiet helped me tremendously. The time I took to vision board and see what I wanted out of my life really helped. And here I am, 5 years later.
What's going on, everybody? It's your guy, Jerron McGregor, also known as Stylist.
And it's your girl, T.G. McGregor, also known as Sin.
And I'm John Bailey. You can call me JB.
And guys, we just thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you guys tuning in with us last week for our launch. And we're just so excited to continue encouraging each of you along your journeys. And so we want you to do us a favor. Click that notification bell.
Yes.
And then go ahead and subscribe. That way you never miss an episode.
Don't miss it.
That's right. We want to see you every week, guys. So be sure to let us know what you want to talk about because we're here for you. So today we're talking about taking action. Last week we touched on soul searching, and we want to know, did you guys do your homework? Did you ask yourself that difficult question? And if so, what answers came up in your personal time?
And then with those answers, please feel free to reach out via our website, exityour9to5.com, so that we can also, give you our feedback.
Perfect. So guys, let's dive in. You've identified whether you're an entrepreneur. You've identified whether you're an entrepreneur. So now what? You've done your soul searching. You created a list to help you. And now we're going to kind of dive in and talk about some ways you can take action. JB, when you were deciding whether or not you wanted to be an entrepreneur, did you do a pros and cons list yourself? Because I totally did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think picking up off the things that you did on your homework, it's going to be important to get clear, right? Like, we're going to talk about what you want, but you're going to speak it out loud, like, every day. I follow a lot of other inspirational people, and I think that a lot of times the defining message is if you're not, eating, sleeping, breathing, living in that moment of that declaration or in that intention you're setting, then you're just not taking it seriously. So, I think we're going to take a look at that list, pull it out, and yeah, I wrote pros and cons. I have a list that's a laundry list. It's not one or two things. It's some people are like, I want to be a millionaire. That's really too far out. It's too vague. There's nothing I can do with that outside of saying, okay, well, now we got to go about the hows and the whys and the and where's that going to take you and things like that. I think you got to get more clear because you're going to speak it every day, right? So AM and PM, you're going to write it maybe on a mirror. It's going to change every day. You're going to always look at that list. So yes, definitely did a pros con list, and I think I rinse it out at least once a month. What about you, Jerome?
In addition to the pros and the cons, in the last episode, I mentioned thinking, and JB, you also mentioned overthinking. not overthinking. And you're correct. There's a balance in between both worlds. And with that, I have found a structure that has aided me. But first, my mental health is the factor, making sure that I am balanced and I can function to take care of all the tasks that I have to do. And with that routine, it just really comes with being self-aware first, and then yes, going into the thought within the pursuit of my dreams.
I think the unique thing that we need to look at when it comes to taking action is most people are conflicted because they're like, okay, all right, I've identified what it is I want to do, but how do I actually do that? How do I manifest? Okay, you're telling me if I sit in a room and I meditate, you're telling me if I sit down and I write a list that I'm able to go ahead and then do what exactly? Like, I think most people come to that point where they have information overload, where there's so much information out there, you don't know what your first step should be. And so we want to kind of help you in that. You have to be very, very particular about who you take advice from. There are so many voices out there. And although you may not have an expertise in something, you also need to ensure that those that you're getting expert advice from are indeed experts. Don't be fooled by your Instagram influencers. Don't be fooled by those who are able to afford paid advertisements. And they trigger you with specific words like, you want to get on TV, or, hey, want to know how the media covered me? When I see advertisements like that, instantly my discernment checks in. And I'm asking myself, what is right about this? And or what is wrong about this, because it's obviously making me feel some kind of way. And usually when I opt in to learn more, they're never telling you anything specific. They are baiting you and leading you in to their campaign.
And that's one of the reasons why when I hear the word experts, sometimes I kind of back away from my experience. Expert is a great thing, but I believe much like art, even that word has been demonized through the disappointments of many who have
Right.
gone through trial and error through their goals.
Right.
And with that, well, how do we really define what that expert is? And breaking that down, me personally, I look into character, because there's a lot of people with accolade, but then there's a lot of people with accolade who have decisions whether of are they going to take proper care of your
Interest. Do they have
Yes.
your best interest at heart?
yes.
Which is an interesting point, because when dealing with taking action, that's where you have to accept accountability for yourself. And the unfortunate position that we stand in today's days, like I said, people look to the internet. And like you said, expertise has not been celebrated much in terms of what it really means. Like when you go to your doctor, most people, JB, they want to know that their doctor has literally had the minimum of 8 years of schooling. They did their 4-year residency. And then after they did their 4-year residency, they were focused on what their specialty was. And with that comes working for a practice that allows you more opportunities to serve patients. So with that, there's a level of action that is required. Like you have to actually take an interest in something and research it outside of Google. Maybe buy a book. JB, am I talking too much on this, or do you feel my vibes?
No, I feel your vibes. Actually, you know, I was resonating with both of what you guys were speaking to. I'm hearing expert. I'm hearing, you have to be big with your vision. However, when you go to chase that vision and you turn to the internet, you're finding a lot of people that are labeling themselves as such, and they're going to jump in and they're going to say, I'm the
Right.
expert at whatever, right? I look at this and I go, expert, all right, wait a second, I'm gonna rewind and go back to the word expert. Now, expert to me most times means it's somebody that like has a skill set that's measurable, right? Like I know if I go to an old mechanic, and he's 25 years in the business and he's seen every which kind of breakdown of a car. He can almost identify it by a sound. You just tell him to hop in. He drives around the block and tells you, your third valve is firing wrong. And, but that's an expert. That's somebody that measurably he's encountered a lot of experience. There's also a book that kind of tells them word for word on what, how to turn a screw, a nut, a bolt, and apply these fixes in a way that's pretty much manufacturer built. It was built in a box. And when I hear other people say, to be honest with you, I've cleaned up my own like professional resumes, LinkedIn, all that stuff multiple times, and I've actually stripped those words out because I look back and I said, why would I call myself an expert at coaching people? No, I'm still in it with them. I'm still learning every day. I'm still experiencing new experiences, and I'm going to have 3 lifetimes before I ever would call myself even remotely close to an expert in that field. So I would say no. And so anybody that's like selling you this expert pitch, I'd have to go back and say, look, you're not even trusting yourself. And then I would go even further. I'm gonna bring in something I heard recently was Will Smith. He has like a lot of motivational sayings, and one of the ones he picked up on was he quoted somebody else's saying, which was saying, "Set your life on fire. Seek those who fan your flames." I sat back for a minute and I said, whoa, wait a second. You have to look at all the people around you first, because they're the most competent people that know you. So, he says, go and look at your phone, pull out 5 people that you've last engaged with, text, messenger, whatever, and do they fuel your flames, or are they throwing water on it, putting it out? And you have to then, at that point, look around you physically, your home, your environment, maybe it's your family, maybe it's your roommates, your friends, your work, your coworkers. You got to look at those 5 people too and be like, did you fuel my flames? And at that point, you kind of have to realize that your motivation, your inspiration, your people around you are the closest in the expert range of who's going to tell you where you're showing up, how you're showing up. So you got to look at that actually and kind of back it up and say, I'm not ready for the internet yet because I can't even weed through these words yet. I don't know what words I want to put on myself yet. And I need to seek, hopefully, the trusted 5 to 10 people around me that are going to tell me what I need to know so that I can make better decisions about how I'm going to chase down this information. I could say all day I want to be a doctor, but if I'm not good with my hands, if I'm not good at recalling information, and it's just not my suit, but I'm better in other fields, like maybe I could, me personally, let's say I can spin around ballet in a kitchen and cook things without even really looking at a recipe book, I would probably want to gravitate more towards the thing I'm really good at with my eyes closed versus forcing something that already is challenging some of my basic, skill sets. So I just look at it and say, okay, we got to get real about what we want. We got to think about things like Will Smith and, see what fuels our fire. And you're going to have to kind of go towards that journey that way, right? And get clear, get real clear about it.
It's so important, and you're so right. The why. Why are you doing what you're doing is going to lead you to know and figure out what kind of actions you should be taking, whether that be seek an expert, seek a mentor, or whether that be, let me do a Google search and start to find some resources that would take me further. I think, like you said, you have to understand what fuels you, and what fuels you should always be education above all. So part of taking action is finding valid references.
So within finding valid references, because you're a part of the Exit Your 9 to 5 community, we're here for you, and we would love to hear from our audience.
Yes, tell us what fuels you. In doing this thing, passion, we know, has to be part of the fuel. Inspiration, motivation. Part of the reason why I had the, idea of starting this podcast, and those of you who've been rocking with us for a few years, you've seen the revamps. But part of the vision was I was learning so much valuable information and seeing people be overcharged for things. And they were simply overcharged because they didn't know how to take action. They didn't know, I can go and just go to irs.gov and check out, how to get an EI number completely for free. Oh, what do you mean I can go? Number. Yeah, what do you mean I can go and get a fictitious business name and operate for 365 days and then show my earnings to a CPA who can then let me know the proper filing? These are things that you will learn with a basic Google search, depending on the industry that you choose to go in. And like we said, if you're an entrepreneur, your search is going to look a little bit different, If you are an entrepreneur, then you definitely need to take the action of educating yourself on your industry and what that journey will look like for you. Routine, stylist.
Routine. I'm big on routine. I tell you. Let me give you an example. Once I got an opportunity as a model for some fashion opportunities in New York. And at the time, I was still doing my music production, not for just myself, but other people. So I was a music producer at the same time, just expanding my horizon. And through that workout, I not only learned that, whoa, yes, I can max out in working out to my desired weight and body type, but I also learned that, okay, I was on a routine. I was on a schedule Monday through Sunday, and it had levels of intensity. So Mondays would be the bulk. Like Mondays would be the top, build until Friday, and then cool down Saturday and Sunday to rise back on Monday again. And I did that for an entire year. And I can say if I were in that space, yes, I would do it again, because a routine does matter, because it not only affects the outside world, it also affects your inside and how you start to see life, because you're flowing in something that, hey, I forced myself to work out. Not to say I was out of shape and all those things. I forced myself because I had a financial opportunity at stake. So it was business that I was doing. But it showed me that, hey, you can. We all have smartphones. We can set our alarm clocks. We can set our calendars for whatever time, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 12 months. You know what I mean?
But what about when that makes people feel stuck? JB, have you ever felt stuck? Like, okay, a routine is great. And I agree with you on that, stylist. You do have to have some type of routine. Working from home myself, I understand those challenges. But JB, what about the people who feel stuck and they're like, I'm tired of the mundane. I need something new to revitalize myself. How do we talk about shadow work?
Yeah, shadow work, absolutely. Feeling stuck. You know, I hear feeling stuck, and most times when I ask somebody about, you know, how they're feeling stuck or why they're feeling stuck, so two things usually come in. First thing is, one is they just don't know what they want. They go, you know, I don't even know what I want to do. Oh, I'm stuck. You know, I don't even know where to look. I don't even know who to ask. Okay, that's a good place to work from. The other people I find that get stuck are the people that got hyped up, they got motivated, they got inspired, and they still don't know where to work. They just don't know where to go from.
Right.
And when I hear that, I go, okay, wait a second. It's similar to what Stylist is saying here. You know, in that year, in that time he committed to that, with that routine, that discipline, what really was happening is he was taking action every day. Action.
Is that eagle eye work where you have the vision and that fuels you?
Yeah, but that's exactly right. It causes motivation. So a lot of time people get confused. They think that you have to go get motivated and then go out and do some action. We'll flip it. No, you need to be getting into action to motivate yourself to keep going further. Yeah. Those little small wins are gonna light you up. They're gonna help you feel like you're making progress, and you're gonna be motivated by that. You're gonna inspire yourself, which is a way different mindset than the other way around, and listen to a bunch of Tony Robbins and some Les Brown and get all super motivated, but don't really know where to launch yourself
and not
forward.
Do a damn thing.
Well, no, you'll be paralyzed by it because it sounds great. You know, like when they say it looks good on paper, but you know, without any action, without any moving forward, it's just not going to produce result. But you know, when we talk about shadow work, that's the work you do when you're going to dive deep in yourself. You're going to ask yourself questions. And, you know, the first time, most people, when I ask if they stuck, what are you afraid of? So it's always a fear-based conversation with me first. I go, what are you afraid of? What's stopping you from moving forward? And overall, what's your relationship with failure? Like we said in that last episode, right? Like, embrace sucking. Like, really and fall in love with failing. And, you know, you hear it from all these top motivational, like, successors, like people that drive results, like Gary Vee. You know, he loves failure. I have friends that, like, literally seek out failure. I watched my 16-year-old son break his foot twice in the last 3 years, twist ankles, nonstop, broken arm, and he just gets back out there and goes back on the board. Yeah. Wow, you look at that and go, wow, like, you have to do that. You have to fall off the board, break your ankle, heal, and then the whole time still realize that your passion and vision is getting back on that board and do it again. Like, I'm the parent. I'm over here like, dude, don't do it again. You're going to break your bone again. Might be able to do the tango when you get married.
Yeah.
And he's like, I love it, Dad. I love it. I love putting my headphones on. I love getting going. And that's the inspiration that you like to see. And it's really because he knows what that action tastes like. He knows what it feels like. But what's your relationship with failure? Like, what's your relationship with failure? And you should 1 to 10 it. And if it's at a 5, ask yourself, what does it look like when it's at a 10? And if it's at a 2, what does it look like when it's at a 3? Because you're not going to go to 10 yet. You know, you want to look at what 3, 4, and 5 is. So that's what I'd ask if you're stuck. And that's going to be the shadow work. You're going to dig in and really find that, the reason why I don't move is because, I had an uncle, and every time he was over, he'd ask me what I was doing, and then he'd shoot me down and tell me I can't do that because I have fingers that are fat and I can't play the piano. This is the things that people tell you, and the problem is it created a relationship with failure around it, because he's like, I don't want to fail like that. I don't want the person I care about that's in my family that's always giving me crap. It starts like that. So you have to ask people, like, what's your relationship with it? Are you good with it? Are you embracing it? Are you ready to roll and fail like the whole time? But, to see what's going to be on the other side of that.
Mindset.
So,
As you talk, I keep thinking what you said. It really does deal with mindset. Like, once you do your shadow work and you do your vision work, your mindset needs to be healthy to progress and achieve those goals, right? Silas, like, how important is mindset? Do people think about that? Because to thrive, you really have to tell yourself the truth. You have to be able to be resilient, like you talked about with the example with your son. I'm curious to think about what people think about themselves, because if they don't have the proper mindset, stylist, how are they going to achieve anything?
First, people are in a state of, and this is a generalized statement from my perspective, busy bee.
Busybody, yeah.
Just moving.
Right.
I remember at a time when I did not have as much attention as a child would, require. However, within my circumstance, I was gifted with a vision. And it just so happens that it was accessible within my circumstance. And it started with a pencil and a piece of white paper, a blank paper. And that's how my drawing journey as an artist first, a real life cartoonist,
But how did
began.
you get that mindset, though?
The mindset was unexplainable. I would have to give that to the Most High, honestly, because who I was as that child and what I've become are polar opposites.
Yeah.
They're polar opposites, but they still cross paths. So I know in my present state, looking back, wow, I learned a lot, and I'm glad that I thought first. I'm glad that I had the time to spend with myself before inserting myself in bigger crowds, more social gatherings. I think that some people are just born into circumstances where they're around a lot of social activity that keeps them in a busy state, which is a normal thing because we are supposed to celebrate. But when diving into business, the celebration is different. A business celebration is totally different from just a normal family occasion. And it's just what I had to come to grips with. And it allowed me to say, okay, I see both worlds. And now I know which mindset works for my situation.
So if you're someone who doesn't understand how you should be mentally and emotionally approaching, taking action to manifest your goals and your dreams, the first thing you could do is, like we said earlier at the very beginning of the episode, get quiet with yourself and start asking yourself probing questions, and then challenging yourself in the understanding of what that is going to look like and take. Because with that, you'll know what mindset to adapt. If you're someone who may not have all of the resources that you think that you need to manifest your goal, you're going to need to use a more faithful mindset, declaring things. You're going to have to physically be active in networking.
But don't be disillusioned, because there are some people who aren't meant for certain things. And, we talk about a lot of these topics, and it's really a part of the whole soul searching
Experience. I know that. I mean, like JB said last week,
Yep.
what are you going to do to be who you want to be?
At least be patient.
What does that look like?
At least be patient first. That's the first thing. Before even writing something down, at least give yourself a chance. Because I come from a musical family, and just like being in the recording studio, much like, your A-listers would say, is that, some nights you just talking. Some
Yeah.
nights it's not even about the music.
Right. And that's true. So it goes into taking action may just be
Sitting in
that
the
environment.
idea and the
Right.
environment.
My thoughts on it really resonate towards what you're saying. I think that was interesting. You mentioned celebrations, and I picked up on that for a moment, and my mind kind of went, all right. Interesting enough, in vision work, I've found that myself, for example, being maybe in a company or being with a bunch of people, and maybe we had a goal. And I remember sometimes having where there was a celebration going on, but in my mind, sitting in the celebration, going, "What are we celebrating?"
Yeah.
because I'm
Oh,
like, wait,
do I
this
know that
doesn't-
feeling along with you?
You know?
Oh, do
Because
I?
it doesn't make sense. Because you're like, wait a second, hold on, we're celebrating often. However, I am not sure that the goals were clearly defined, or if maybe the goals were, and I just was like muting it out as I was like going through the journey, because maybe we have different goals and we see it differently of how it scales. So that brings me to kind of like, when I hear again the celebration or whatever, I look at it and go, is it meaningful? Does it make sense? Is it aligned with my vision? And it's okay to align your vision with somebody else's vision. I think it's interesting to live a life where you're living somebody else's vision, and every time you're doing these celebrations, you look at it and go, I'm not living in my vision. This is somebody else's vision. I don't resonate to it, but I'm going to hold on because I really don't have one for myself either. So I'm going to keep on going. No. So I do get like sitting in it, being patient, kind of just seeing what comes up. Yes. And then I think once you get there, once you've arrived to the vision of what you want to look for, and I would say, in a world like us anyway, I say anybody over 21 years old, hopefully you're defining your life. Even in college, you're getting closer to that milestone of what's next. And I would say that you kind of do what I call like an eagle's eye view, or in leadership, it's the eagle eye leadership, which is like, focusing and concentrated focus on that success.
Right.
I would say in life, though, I'm going to eagle eye it on, if I say 3 years out from now, I want to, let's say something big, right? Like win the Nobel Peace Prize. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. What subject? Like what am I going to speak
How
to?
do
What
you
am I
do
going to
that?
confess
Exactly.
to? And I think that you go and you seriously rewind from that goal backwards. And as you hit how you arrive to each level of that, you look at it and go, can I do that? Right? Like I did one time, I went 20 years out. 20 years is really big to think about, and I like to live in the moment. So 20 years for me is like, okay, what would I do? What year is that? Hold on, what? How old are my kids?
What does life
Hold on,
look
Mom's
like?
gonna be
We
what?
did not know what 2020.
Are we gonna have flying cars? I don't know. So then I gotta look at it and go, okay, but what is the goal, right? So I wrote it down to a lot of different things. Actually, it wasn't like 20 years I want to be the most esteemed on Forbes magazine successful man. No, it was like, I want to have 3 properties, and one of them being in a foreign country. And it was like, I got specific with it. And then that exercise had me go back so many years, 15 years, 11 years, 7 years, all the way down to 90 days out.
Yeah.
And then when I sat back and looked at that was my eagle's eye. I could now, from an eagle's height, 20,000 feet up or whatever, however high they can look, they're looking 100 miles out.
Right.
And you feather that in time and distance, for eagle to fly 100 miles, that's some work. For a cheetah to run 100 miles, that's some work.
Yeah.
For a person to move 100 miles, that's some work. Like car, plane, automobile, how long, and you got to look at that and go, okay, I know that if I fly in a plane and I'm going 100 miles, then I'm going to be in this area. It's like a hop, skip, 20-minute flight, but I still got to get to the airport, and I got to check my bag, and I got to get on the plane. I got to, there's a process.
Yeah.
And if along that line you looked at it and said, wait, I can't go to the airport yet. I don't have a plane ticket. So and how am I going to plane ticket? I don't have $100. Like
Right.
You have to rewind it so much so to realize, okay, hold on, that vision is not make sense for me right now. what are the things I need to do? And if those things don't make sense for me, i.e. mechanic, I don't know, like, and you're like, wait, but I'm not really mechanically inclined, and I have really nice hands, and I don't want to mess, like, there's like all these things that you do, and you're like, well, wait a minute, maybe I don't want to become a mechanic. And so you got to get there. And I think sometimes it's like, you stay in the moment, like Sal says, you be patient at the same time that once you have it, you got to reverse, engineer it, and you got to make it make sense for you. So that's what I see. It'd be the next level, be vision work out of that.
To thine own self be true, said Shakespeare. And I think with that being said, people, as you prepare to take action, once again, take some time to quiet yourself. Then from there, we want you to be realistic about your long and short-term goals according to what you've chosen to conquer. You need to be mindful of what that's going to take. Adjust your mindset, adjust your lifestyle, create a routine so that you can indeed accomplish your goals. But as you do that, we want you to be realistic at the same time, guys. So as we leave you, we have to give you an action item. And this week's action item is to create an action plan based on what you've decided to embark. If you want to be a doctor, have you attained a simple BA? If you want to be an actor, how many films have you watched? Who's your favorite actor, actress, and or why? Because if you don't know what you're observing, how can you know what to emulate? If you're someone who's working in a corporation as a nurse or even a receptionist or an executive assistant, you need to understand what the company's goals are so you know how to move within the ladder. And if this is not for you, you need to start educating yourself on what your next step is. From executive assistant, most people turn to office management, So you need to consider business administration at the next level for yourself. What we're trying to say is take some time out to really dive into what it is you're interested in.
Yes.
And educate yourself. That's the action we want you to take. Educate yourself on your industry. And then you can start some introductory interviews with people to start finding out what you got to do.
But if you don't know where to start, definitely reach out to us at exityour9to5.com.
If you've heard us talk about our exit strategy kit, you need to visit our website, sign up to learn more, because in this toolkit, we're going to give you some solid action steps, right, JB?
Oh, yeah. We're going to have a lot of good stuff in there. I'm going to throw in some, Eagle Vision type of work. And, I encourage people to get creative with it. I know you've mentioned a lot of professions that definitely require some jump in, some learning, some internships maybe, who knows. But I also think that if you're the aspiring business person, the entrepreneur that wants to open a food truck, wants to do a fashion line, wants to make pins for the election, whatever you want to do, you're going to have to look at that in a realistic perspective and maybe reach out to, some companies in your local community. Maybe you have friends and you just don't know because you need to ask about that kind of information, which is also a vulnerable conversation. But I think, as we get into the next episode, which is probably really getting into intention work and declaring it for yourself as we move forward in the action, you're going to want to step into that toolkit. You're going to want to start answering the questions, because we're going to pick up traction. And like life, time does not stop and wait for you to make those moves. And right now we're just getting started. So I think absolutely we're going to have some valuable tools in the kit. And like I said, I'm going to throw in the Eagle Eye stuff. And just overall, I want to leave this conversation real quick before we get to signing off. I'm inspired by the words of Thomas Edison. A lot of people know him in different ways and how he invented or what he did for people. I think just overall, I like the words of people. If they say it and they're attached to it and they've created results in their life, it makes sense. And, for him, it was vision without execution is hallucination. Let's not have big visions that are the mirage in the middle of the desert. Let's create it in the middle of the city with everybody looking and everybody watching, everybody judging, because who cares? It's your life, not anybody else's. And so that's where I leave it. But jump into the toolkit.
I couldn't say it better. Guys, we thank you so much for tuning into us. I'm your favorite host because, I do what I do when I do what I do. No, I'm just kidding. I'm one of your hosts, TG McGregor.
I just want y'all to know, call me Stylist. But at the same time, I wanted you guys to know, Jerome McGregor.
And I'm John Bailey. I'm all about your dreams. I'm all about manifesting your visions. And I hope that you reach out to us and we get to hear from you.
Absolutely. See you next week, guys.
Till next time.
Peace.
Exit your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Exit your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Exit your 9 to 5. Get gone, get going, got goals, gotta save. Bye bye, bye bye. Exit your 9 to 5. Exit your 9 to 5. Exit your 9 to 5. Get gone, get going, got goals, gotta save. Bye bye, bye bye. Exit your 9 to 5.
I got a dream, got the passion, made a plan to get the means.